Welcome back as we recap on question time with the Peace and Security Cluster of Ministers. We look at a question which is of particular interest to South Africans who plan to travel abroad, specifically to Britain. Gaum of the ANC wanted to know if a date had been determined for resuming discussions on the lifting of visa requirements for South African citizens visiting Britain. He also asked with which other country's government was negotiating to do away with visas or to ease visa requirements for South Africans. Deputy Home Affairs Minister Fatima Chowen told the National Assembly that the Ministry of Home Affairs had earlier indicated that talks with Britain would resume once the Olympic Games had come to an end. Therefore, negotiations will resume in due course.
With regard to Section B, the Department of Home Affairs is negotiating with the following countries to do away or ease visa requirements for all levels of passport holders. The two countries currently in negotiations with us are Latvia and Lithuania.
Mr. Gaum of the ANC said it was understandable that visas could not be scrapped overnight, but South Africa should at least negotiate for the relaxation of requirements like lower costs and longer periods of validity of those visas. Mr. Gaum said South Africa should also consider the scrapping of visa requirements for all BRIC member states as a matter of priority.
Yes, certainly we do agree that a range of issues need to be discussed with our British counterparts, which may very well include the things that you're suggesting, but we also don't want to preempt any such negotiations with our counterparts if that's in order. I assume that you would be understanding of that. As to the issues of priorities with regard to those countries where we are indeed consolidating very sound international relationships, yes, certainly they do feature amongst the countries that we will try and prioritize. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a sausage machine and almost the first come, first served type of situation. But clearly there are certain vested interests that we would need to protect, and as part of consolidating our overall international relationships with those countries, we will certainly pursue the relaxation of visas on a reciprocal basis with some vigor.
Manuel de Freitas of the DA said in his follow-up question it was clear why Britain had made it difficult for South Africans to apply for visas. The question was whether those issues were being addressed by the South African government.
The fact that Britain found it necessary to impose visa requirements on South Africa, visiting their country, is an indictment on the rampant corruption within this department. And therefore, what measures, procedures and processes is the Ministry implementing to ensure that we are seen to be a secure and safe country when it comes to visa requirements and easing thereof, and even doing away with those requirements altogether?
I can't presume to speak for anybody other than the South African government, Honourable Member, and so I wouldn't know what led to the implementation of those requirements. As to the perception that you allude to, I don't imagine that anybody would want to negotiate with us if that was the perception that they had of South Africa. As it is, we have got firm commitments to negotiate around these issues, and as I said previously, we intend pursuing them with some vigor.
Honourable Deputy Minister, I think South Africans spent last year almost 150 million in paying visa fees just to visit the United Kingdom. That is money that we could have spent in this country in a far better way. So this is a serious matter. Can she assure us that they will not come back and say they're not happy with the security of our passports, and that's why they're returning this whole issue back to the department?
Honourable Member, I'm unfortunately unable to give you any assurances as to what the British government may or may not say. As I say, I speak only for the South African government. And as far as we're concerned, there should be absolutely no reason why there should not be reciprocity from any other country where we do not require visas from their nationals. And that's the position that we have, And that's the position that we will pursue. As to what the eventual outcome will be, of course, that's a matter that we would need to, we'll get to that bridge and we'll cross it at that.
Deputy Minister, just to follow up on your assurance that you speak on behalf of South African government, can you assure this House, therefore, that what was the concern before around the problem with Britain in terms of our reliability of our passport, that issue has now been addressed, is an issue that we're no longer going to arise in terms of the system that we put in place on that, including the fact that before there was this debate about Gijima that was responsible in this credit card issue visa. That matter was, I suppose, to resolve. And what, if you can also just reassure this House that that issue was resolved, and including give this House a bit of information around this golden handshake that was given to Gijima to exit this very same credit card visa that they were not delivering in terms of the contract.
Certainly the issue of the smart card is a matter that would resolve any outstanding concerns that people have with regard to the integrity of our systems. To give the Honourable Member an assurance that one of the positive aspects of the new ID smart card will be that by and large we will be processing those cards in-house, and we would not be using consultants for that. As to golden handshakes and so on, we have not moved away from any aspect of legality, which you seem to be insinuating in your question. Of that, I can give you an assurance. We have done nothing illegal. Whatever we have done would have been done within the parameters of the law, and that is the philosophy that we imbue in the department, and certainly something that we would not be able to do by law in any case.
Yesterday, we listened to a response from the Deputy Minister of Police on why the South African Police Services had terminated its contract with a private security company for the protection of police stations. Deputy Police Minister Makgotso Soju replied that the contract with security companies had not been terminated. It simply expired at the end of June this year, and SAPS then decided not to renew it. In her supplementary question, Diane Kohler-Barnard said thousands of breadwinners were thrown out of work because COSATU had a problem with the contracts.
The reality is that the contracts for the private security companies and the cleaners were scrapped because COSATU told the minister to. You know, the minister and the ministry have successfully thrown hundreds, if not thousands, because no one's given us the number yet, of breadwinners out of work because, of course, they couldn't pay dues to the COSATU affiliated unions. Now, do you tend to take any responsibility for these thousands put out of work, or are they just going to be considered to be collateral damage?
You know, it's amazing. It's very amazing. Ukuthi abantu belilizwe balibala ngespeed kanjani na. It was not long ago when members were complaining about government institutions which were guarded by private securities. It was not long ago when members were complaining about the plight of the reservists in the police because they were not getting any source of income, and some of them were not even safe to work within the police. Now that we are trying to address this, and then people come with other issues because they've got their own interests that we don't know. I'm not going to talk on behalf of COSATU here because I'm not a spokesperson of COSATU. And secondly, there are no members of SAPS that are guarding any institution of government. The only institutions of government that are being guarded by members of SAPS is obvious. There are our forensic labs. Parliament here is guarded by police. And then you get all the airports, you'll get police. But you can't let police stations to be guarded by security guards.
What measures had been taken to recruit suitable people for the South African Police Services? Stay tuned for the answer to that question. We will be back in a moment.